Okay, let's get right into it. You've seen the headlines, you've heard the names, but the real story of GLP-1 drugs is so much bigger than just weight loss. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we even think about the biology of hunger and metabolism. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the science behind this absolute revolution.
You know the feeling, right? It's late. You've had dinner, you're not really hungry, but there's this powerful signal, this pull, that has you staring into the fridge again. For decades, the advice was just try harder, use more willpower, treat it like a math problem. Calories in, calories out.
But what if that late-night craving isn't a failure of character at all? What if it's just a biological signal? And what if hunger isn't a math problem to be solved, but a complex communication system we can actually listen to? That idea right there is what's changing everything.
Yeah, you know these names. Ozempic, Wegovy, they're everywhere now. But to really get why they've become such a massive phenomenon, we have to look past all the buzz and get right to the science.
See, the real story here isn't actually the drugs. It's the body's own system that these drugs tap into. It all comes down to a single hormone from our gut that acts like a master switch on this incredible biological control panel that regulates our appetite, our blood sugar, and ultimately our body weight.
So, how do they actually work? Let's get into the mechanics. The whole thing comes down to mimicking a message that your body is already sending every single day.
It's called GLP-1. That stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. When you eat a meal, your gut releases this hormone. You can think of it like a messenger running from the kitchen of a restaurant out to the dining room, shouting, "Hey, food's here, we're good, tell the brain to chill out, manage the sugar, and let everyone know we don't need to order any more for a while."
And that one little message does three huge things at once. First, it tells your pancreas, hey, release some insulin to handle the sugar from this meal. Second, it signals your liver to stop dumping its own stored sugar into your system. And third, and this is a big one, it slows down how fast your stomach empties and tells your brain you're full, making that feeling of satiety last so much longer.
But here's the catch. Your body's natural GLP-1, it's a sprinter. It does its job for a few minutes and then it's gone. That's perfect for managing one meal. These drugs, though, are engineered to be marathon runners. They mimic the hormone, but they're designed to stick around for days, sending that "I'm full and satisfied" signal constantly.
I love this analogy because it just hits the nail on the head. For years, we've tried to fight hunger, basically just yelling at a hot room to cool down. These drugs don't do that. They just walk over and adjust the body's metabolic thermostat. The result is that people often just naturally eat less because their body is finally getting a clear, consistent signal that it's had enough.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific. There are two main molecules leading this whole charge. First, you've got semaglutide. That's what's in Ozempic and Wegovy. It's a pure GLP-1 mimic. But then you have tirzepatide, which is in Mounjaro and Zepbound. That one's a dual agonist. It hits the GLP-1 receptor and another gut hormone receptor called GIP, creating a kind of 1-2 punch that's even more powerful.
So we have this really powerful biological mechanism. But the reason the entire world suddenly snapped to attention? It was the clinical trial results. And they were, to put it mildly, stunning.
Just look at the main trial for semaglutide. Over 68 weeks, the people on a placebo with lifestyle changes lost about 2.5% of their body weight. Not bad, but the group on semaglutide, they lost an average of 15%. That just set a completely new bar for what a weight loss medication could do.
And then tirzepatide came along and raised that bar even higher. In its big trial, people on the highest dose lost, on average, around 22% of their body weight. I mean, those are numbers we used to only see with bariatric surgery, not with a weekly injection. It was a true game changer.
And it is so important to understand. This is not just cosmetic. We are talking about major health impacts. Wegovy is now officially approved to reduce the risk of things like heart attacks and strokes. Zepbound is approved for chronic weight management. This is about treating the serious diseases that are directly linked to excess weight.
But of course, anything this powerful comes with a reality check. These drugs are incredibly effective, for sure, but they are not perfect, and they're definitely not without some serious trade-offs. So the most common side effects are all related to the gut: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. For a lot of people, this gets better over time. For some, though, it's enough to make them stop taking the medicine.
And then there are rarer but more serious risks that doctors have to watch for, like pancreatitis, gallbladder problems, and there are specific warnings for people with a history of certain thyroid cancers.
Which brings us to maybe the single most important question in this whole conversation. What happens when you stop taking the drug?
Well, think about it like this. If someone stops taking their blood pressure medication, what happens? Their blood pressure usually goes right back up. We don't say the medicine failed, we understand it was managing a chronic condition. It's the same thing here. The data is pretty clear. When you stop the drug, the biological signals go back to the way they were, and for many people, the weight comes back. This really reframes obesity not as a temporary issue, but as a chronic disease that requires long-term management.
Okay, so let's switch gears. Beyond the science, there is this massive business story unfolding, and it's all about manufacturing, price, and who can actually get access to these things.
You see, making these drugs isn't like cranking out aspirin pills. These are complex biological molecules. They have to be produced, put into sterile auto-injector pens, and shipped under really tight controls. This whole complicated supply chain is why demand is just completely swamped supply, leading to all the shortages you hear about.
So if you're looking at this from a business perspective, it's both a dream and a huge warning. The dream is this enormous market with insane demand. The warning label is all the manufacturing headaches, the pushback from insurance companies on the high prices, and the growing political pressure to bring those costs down. The companies that win here won't just have the best drug, they'll have the best supply chain, period.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, the real paradigm shift here isn't just about a new pill or a new injection. It's about a completely new way of talking and thinking about one of the most common health conditions on the planet.
If you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. These drugs have given us powerful, undeniable proof that hunger is not a character flaw. It's a biological signal, a signal that can be regulated. And when you fundamentally change that signal, behavior and health can dramatically change too.
These drugs are incredibly powerful tools. But you know, a tool is only as good as the system that's built around it. And so the real question we're left with isn't just, do these medications work? We know they do. The real question is, can we build a healthcare system that's smart enough, equitable enough, and sustainable enough to actually use them well?